What's up Nerfers, and welcome back to my channel, where today I'm taking a look at Dart Zone's brand new Nitroshot Half-Length Darts. These were forwarded to me thanks to Out of Darts in the USA because Dart Zone don't ship internationally, which means if you live outside of the US or Canada, these are going to be pretty hard to get your hands on. And as usual, Dart Zone have made some pretty bold claims on the box, saying #1 for accuracy. That's definitely something I want to test today, but first a closer look at the darts.
These are Dart Zone's first bamboo style dart that actually weighs 1 gram. In the past, their bamboos have been either 0.7 or 0.8 gram lightweights with low range and mediocre accuracy, best suited to chronograph number e-peening. Weighing a gram means they're the same as normal darts, such as worker bamboos, which I'll be including in today's comparison. I'm also going to test against worker bamboo heavies, which weigh 1.2 grams, and Sabre darts, which are even heavier at 1.3. In terms of durability, I found worker darts were the weakest, breaking with only 1.5 kilograms of force. In second place were Nitroshot, requiring 2.3 kilograms to break. And the strongest were Sabre darts, which took 3.6 kilograms to pull the heads off. So Nitroshot are glued 50% stronger than Worker, and Sabre are glued 50% stronger again than Nitroshot. For the rest of the testing, I'll need a blaster. And I just got my Sweetheart Storm back from Foamwork with some quality of life improvements. It now has a little screen on the left-hand side which tells you your fire mode and has a shot counter. You can also program semi to various burst modes, and the rear selector switch position is now the off switch, with D prime being moved to a hold of the trigger for a couple of seconds. With magnetic mag followers, it'll now completely empty the mag rather than leaving one dart behind. It'll also lock the bolt open so that when you insert a fresh mag, you just hold the trigger in for a second and it'll chamber the first dart. Overall, these might sound like minor improvements, but together they make the Storm a lot smoother to operate. On the front of the barrel, I've attached a Sabre B-car. This should give the Storm the best accuracy possible, but it may reduce that 300 FPS it usually shoots by a little bit. The Sabre B-car, as good as it is, does reduce FPS a little more than other B-cars do. So first up will be the Chrono Test, beginning with Nitroshot darts.
Okay, for the Chrono Test, first I've got 15 of the Nitroshots loaded up. Let's see how they do. .274, 281, 276, 232, 272, 278, 278, 267, 267, 281, 275, 272, 276, 272, 273. That's all 15 of those fired. Let's change to worker bamboos. Okay, 15 worker bamboos, standard 1 gram variant. I'll do the heavier ones in a second. Fresh mag in means I need to hold the trigger for a second to chamber the first dart. 288, 269, 284, 257, 278, 282, 282, 267, 282, 265, 281, 291, 290, 270, 270, and 273 to end things off. Now I will just mention the Sabre B-car does reduce velocity a bit more than any other B-car that I've used on this, and that's why the velocities are about 20 FPS lower than 300. Now we'll try the worker heavies. All right, 15 worker heavies. These weigh 20% heavier than the last ones I just did. Holding in the trigger again to chamber the first dart. These will be slower. 272, 265, 235, 254, 255, 252, 246, 264, 254, 254, 266, 266, 244, 253, 244, 244, and 263 to end off the worker heavies. Only one dart type left to do, and that's of course the Sabres. Now the Sabre darts are of course 2 mil longer than the others I've tested today. I did see some concerns from comments that these might not feed in AEGs like the Storm, but we're about to find out. 15 Sabre darts. These should be the slowest of all because they're 30% heavier than a 1 gram dart. $2.52, $2.56, $2.53, $2.58, $2.49, $2.27, $2.53, $2.59, $2.60, $2.37, $2.55, $2.59, $2.57, $2.49, and $2.57, rounding off all 15 of the Sabre darts. And I'll give this a nice deprime by holding the trigger for a second.
Over the chronograph, all 4 dart types had similar consistency, shooting standard deviations of 9, 10, and 11. The Storm isn't quite as consistent as something like the Apex Prime, but averaging 10 isn't bad at all. As for velocity, Worker Bamboos and Nitroshots were the fastest, averaging 276 and 271 feet per second. Worker Heavies and Sabre darts averaged pretty much the same as each other, 254 and 252, and that's despite Sabre being the heavier of the two. I think the higher quality foam helps make up for that extra weight a little bit. Anyway, now it's time for the test that I want to see, the 30-meter accuracy test.
Okay guys, for the accuracy test today, I'll be starting out with the Dart Zone Nitroshot darts, 15 of those. I'll be aiming at this target here 30 meters away, or 100 feet for my American viewers, aiming with my crosshairs on this white outline at the top. I find that by the time darts travel 30 meters, they drop down to about the center. As proof that this video will be completely unbiased and the results will be true of what the darts actually do, I've attached this run cam scope cam to the top of my sight here, so you'll be able to see that I'm aiming at the exact same spot for every shot. I'll be using this sandbag here to steady the blaster, holding in the trigger for half a second to chamber the first dart. Let's get started with the nitro shots. Not bad. I think I was on the bullseye. So was that. These are pretty good. That was a little to the left. Pretty central there. Little lower. Little higher. Central. 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 These are pretty good darts, to be honest. I think they're going to outperform the Workers. And that's all 15. All right, I'll chuck in some Worker Bamboos now, but I can't see these being better than that just was. Aiming at the same spot as the last darts. That was pretty central. A little higher the ball though. Low and to the right. Central. Low. Central. Low. Central. Low. 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 Central. High. Low and right. Low. Central. Central. And that's all 15. Let's load in some Worker Heavies and see if they do better. All right, 15 Worker Heavies. Hold in the trigger, chamber the first one. High and to the left. Low and center. High and to the right. Low. 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 Center. Center. Little bit to the right. Low. Low and to the left. Low and to the left. center, and center. Now, I don't know if you noticed, but a couple of those trigger pulls, no dart came out. I think I need to adjust the timing in this digital computer, but for now, that's not going to make any difference to the results. Let's just continue. Hard to pick between the worker heavies and the worker standards, but now I'll move on to the Sabre darts. All right, 15 Sabre darts. These are 2 mil longer than the rest of them, so we'll see whether that causes any issues. Lovely, just low of the center. High and right of the center. Center, center, little low of center, center, maybe slightly high, slightly high, little to the right, little high, little low and left, little low, little low, little low, center, and a little low. That's all 4 dart types done. Let's head back inside and see how they did.
First up were Dart Zone Nitroshots, and they set the bar high straight off the bat, shooting a spread 30 centimeters tall and 20 centimeters wide. The size of an A4 sheet of paper. Very impressive compared to Dart Zone's previous offerings. We'll have to see whether the other darts can keep up. Next were standard 1 gram worker bamboos, which you can easily see had a worse spread than Nitroshot. 60 centimeters tall and 30 centimeters wide. Basically, if you take the Nitroshot spread and double it vertically, you get what the workers did here. As for worker heavies, they weren't quite as bad as their 1 gram counterpart, but still worse than Nitroshot, shooting a 40 centimeter tall and 25 centimeter wide spread. Now though, let's get rid of the worker darts for a sec and see how just the Sabre darts did compared to Nitroshot. The two were incredibly close. Sabre dart spread was slightly taller than Nitroshots, but the width was a little narrower. These two dart types, both made in the same factory in China, were so close that I was almost going to call it a tie. But instead, I put it out to a blind vote for the community to decide. Before I get to the result of that, one more interesting little side-by-side I wanted to do is see which dart makes it to the target first. As it turns out, the heavier Sabre dart beat the Nitroshot by a hair when slowed down to 25% speed. Not enough that you could actually judge it without the slow motion though. Anyway, back to the poll. The community chose option red by a landslide. That means the Sabre darts are the winner. And it makes sense, I suppose. Your opponents will generally be taller than they are wide, just like the Sabre spread. On the box the Nitroshots come in, it says number 1 for accuracy, and while this is not exactly the case, this is definitely the closest Dart Zone has ever been to backing up their claims. Another thing to think about is availability of the two. Sabre darts are stocked by retailers all around the world, Foamwork here in Australia, Out of Darts in the USA. They also have distributors in Singapore, Malaysia, Europe, Taiwan, and even the UK. I'll leave a link to all of their distributors down below. Dart Zone, however, only ships to the US and Canada. So for the majority of people, Nitroshot isn't even a viable option. So it's good to know that you're not actually missing out on anything here. Additionally, Giant Kids seem to be using a slightly stronger glue, or maybe they have a better tip design on their Sabre darts compared to their Nitroshots, because they take 50% more force to rip their heads off. A small difference overall, but I'm trying to find something to nitpick about the two because they were just that close. I also want to test these in my Sabre Apex Prime sometime in the future, since that's a more consistent blaster, and I've had much smaller groupings than I got today using that blaster. But for now it seems, whichever one you pick, Sabre or Nitroshot, they're both innovations in dart accuracy that go a step beyond Worker's current offerings. Find all of these darts and the blaster I used at the links down below. That's all I have for you today. Like, comment, subscribe, and all of that. Here's 2 other videos you might enjoy, and as always, thank you very much for watching. See ya!